Welcome to the Marketing Second Shift podcast. On today's episode, we talk with...
Well, my name is Tina Rexing.
Owner of T-Rex Cookies in Minneapolis, international cookie consultant, and the hardest working woman in cookie dough today.
Come on, challenge me. I have an agreement with U.S. Bank Stadium.
That's a lot of cookies.
And the Vikings, and I'm also a preferred vendor for the Super Bowl coming up.
She's a celebrity, too.
My first TV appearance was on the Today Show to talk about that particular cookie. Sea salt caramel chocolate chip. That's the one you just got. And it was voted #1 cookie in the country last year.
It's delicious.
My favorite is Snickerdoodle.
Snickerdoodle, it's just fun to say.
Many people don't know this about me, but I don't like chocolate. I'll eat it, but I don't seek it out. So Snickerdoodle to me is like the epitome of simplest cookie.
Simple is good.
If you can perfect that, you've gone to where you're supposed to be. It's like the first recipe you make in home ec, right? When you're in like 7th grade. They don't even call it home ec anymore. They call it family life sciences or something like that.
And what do they call shop class nowadays?
But at the end of the day, it's still home ec.
So why cookies?
Why not? When you think about what's out there, cupcakes, right? When you think about cupcakes, it's great for a special occasion, but can you actually eat a cupcake every day?
Yes, I can.
Can you buy a cupcake today and eat it 3 days from now? You could, but you probably wouldn't enjoy it as much. And the thing is, for cookies, it always reminded people of something.
Reminds me that I'm getting hungry.
It's very nostalgic, where it reminds, eating an oatmeal raisin cookie reminds them of being at grandma's house. It brings people something simple yet nostalgic, but at the same time, I take my flavors into different directions that people don't necessarily think about. You can do the same thing with cupcakes, but the difference with my product is that the shelf life is about 7 days because they're so large.
They are large.
And you can freeze them, and you can eat them by yourself. You can eat them all in one sitting if you wanted to.
I want to.
Which I don't necessarily recommend. Dinosaurs, especially the T-Rexes, have little arms, so you need a big cookie for them to have the cookie reach their mouth.
Tiny little arms. So why are the cookies so big?
I started out making normal size cookies, let's just say. And in my past, I used to be a tennis instructor. And so as a tennis instructor, you're like an automatic ball feeder. And I started to develop tennis elbow.
Ouch.
And so as I scooped these small cookies, hundreds at a time, my tennis elbow got aggravated. So at some point, I started making them bigger and bigger without using the scooper, just weighing it out. And I would bring both cookies to market. I started out at the Minneapolis Farmers Market. So I would bring the small guys and the big guys, and then I realized that no one was buying the small ones anymore because the big ones were far more impressive to look at.
Efficient to make and delicious to eat.
As I grew my brand from making normal size cookies into bigger cookies, people would always ask me to make a smaller cookie and go back to making small cookies. I actually do stand my ground in terms of saying, no, I will not. Because the moment I take myself out of the big T-Rex cookie, I just kind of lose a little bit of my image.
Protecting the brand.
I'm a Scorpio, so people know not to piss me off.
Well, actually, I don't know what scorpions sound like.
What people don't know about me is that I like to help people out, even my competitors. But then there's people out there who don't like me.
I find that hard to believe.
Or who don't like the business, or I don't know if it's out of pure jealousy or whatnot, but there have been people when I first started out who are not helpful at all to me. I'm a firm believer of karma. I call it market karma. I've known people to badmouth my product at the market while I'm there, but at the end of the day, they're still where they are. Call it payback.
Wow, you are a Scorpio.
I always challenge my staff to think outside the box, or outside the bowl, as I say. With them, we make avocado cookies. We've made everything from a Cheetos-based cookie. And so, if it doesn't work, it doesn't work. We've tried things that don't. We, for example, made a grape cookie because someone wanted a purple cookie. And so we went and made a grape cookie. It tasted like a Flintstone vitamin. So we'll never go that direction again. I'm not afraid to step out of what's normal, which is generally my personality anyway. As you saw in the cafe, it's an open kitchen. I want to be transparent to the public when they come into the shop and say, okay, these are the people who make your cookies. You can see them making them.
You can see them, and I I can wave at the staff. They are very friendly.
There's nothing to hide, really. I did manage other people before in my past corporate jobs, and I think the biggest part of it is I get to hand choose these people. A lot of times when you're in corporate, you kind of inherit a team that you don't necessarily choose. And one big part of T-Rex Cookie is the brand. 80% of my product is the brand. And to be able to hire people who can represent the brand is really key for me. I put a lot of trust in them. Hopefully they don't kill each other.
What do you love about the business?
What do I love about the business? That it's mine. I think that's something, when I quit corporate to start the company, I think a lot of my colleagues, they started to live vicariously through me. You know, I was doing something that a lot of people want to do, but are afraid to do it. And finally, I just said, screw it, I'm gonna do it anyway. So yeah, that it's mine, but that's, you know, it's a love-hate thing because I love the fact that it's mine, but because it's mine, when shit hits the fan,
Bleep!
And things aren't going well, it's my problem. So I've always been like the practical person. Don't go to school majoring in English or history because you might not be able to get a job.
Hey, what about David Duchovny and Garrison Keillor and moi?
Right? And so I did the practical thing, majored in something I knew I would get a job after college, and I did. Graduated in 95, I'm gonna date myself, and went right to work for Northwest Airlines as a data analyst for the Pacific Revenue Management Division. You know, I worked at Target for a number of years. Before that, I worked at Thomson Reuters. So I've kind of hit like the big companies in the cities.
Throw in Cargill and you've got a trifecta.
Ironically, Target brings me back to talk about how I left Target. The feedback I would get in corporate made me question my ability to stay there. So for example, I had applied for a few roles at Target, which I thought I would be a perfect candidate for. Knocked the interviews out of the park. And then the feedback at the end, why they wouldn't hire me, was Tina's ability to get shit done was a problem. Meaning I would get stuff done regardless of other people not getting their end done. And so because it's such a team-focused environment...
yes, teamwork.
It was a problem. In my mind, that didn't make any sense because... Don't you reward people for getting shit done? In corporate, it's not the case. It's always about how many friends you can make along the way. That was a big eye-opener for me to say, okay, you know what? If this is a problem for me to get things done, then this is not a place for me. And so at that point, I decided time to go and take my skill set where it actually makes sense. And where else would it make sense but to be an entrepreneur? One of the key books I had read as I went through my career is Lean In by Sheryl Sandberg. And one of the chapters that was resonated with me was it's a jungle gym, not a ladder.
That sounds like fun.
You cannot be sorry for going down the slide after climbing your corporate ladder, because at some point you can climb up a different ladder. I quit my job, and giving up that much salary to not know what I was going to do next was a challenge for the family.
What did you have to give up?
We're going to give up our country club membership and not play golf, and we're going to give up our season tickets to the Minnesota Wild because we can't afford that anymore, to starting this company. You know, it was a hard sell. You could ask me about my husband. Does he agree with what I'm doing? No. He initially thought the company was a glorified hobby.
Can we go there?
Sure.
What would a negative Nellie say?
Tina was only able to start this company because her husband was able to support her. Yes, that would be a true statement, but I'm not going to apologize for it.
What do you think about the work-life balance discussion? Is it realistic?
That struggle with a lot of women in corporate and women in my position now is that there's a fair amount of guilt that society puts on you, that you need to be super mom, corporate person, successful person, all at the same time. And that's not going to happen. The amount of guilt that you put on yourself is just going to be detrimental to your success. Yeah, but I want to say balance is a misnomer because it makes you believe that it should be 50% family, 50% work, just because that would be balance. It's different for everyone, especially women in these situations need to stop feeling guilty about the decisions they make.
Tina, what's your biggest business challenge?
I think my biggest challenge has been the speed at which the business has grown. And a lot of businesses fail during their growth. And so for me, keeping that in the back of my mind and understanding that I cannot say yes to everything just because it's going to make you money. I have to be strategic about every decision I make. For example, when people ask me to make cookies for funerals.
Cookies put the fun in funerals.
I won't do it because I just don't want my brand to be associated with a sad occasion.
What's the future for T-Rex cookies?
Now the question's going to be, how am I going to grow? Do I grow into more locations? Do I grow by shutting down the whole retail aspect and start doing wholesale only? I'm in 4 different restaurants in the city. Do I make more money going retail, or do I just stay doing what I'm doing, running a restaurant? The whole restaurant cafe aspect of my business was not in my business plan.
Wow.
Just making those types of decisions and how do I scale without compromising the brand is a big concern for me right now. You kind of have to keep thinking years ahead of where you are. And, if I move, that's great. And if I stay where I am, that's great too. But you never live in the now when you're a business owner. You're always looking ahead.
Well, thanks to Tina Rexing for joining us today. Head on over to T-Rex Cookies, located at 3338 University Avenue Southeast in Minneapolis. You'll recognize the building. It's the one with the blue coffee cup sticking out of the corner. And it has giant cookies inside, conveniently located on the Green Line and not too far from the Marketing Second Shift podcast studios. Brought to you by Chronicles Digital.